how close are we to what the estimate is when it comes to what we actually have as our answer, just as a sanity check. I feel for you in retirement, you just want to have a sanity check. We don't want to get into the nuts and the bolts and all the numbers all the time. We just want to have a small estimate if we're going in the right direction, and I want enough time that I can make the changes. Hi, it's Dre Griggs of Obsidian Wisdom. Today we answer the question, what is the 25 times rule of retirement, and how does it compare to all those other rules Dre just kind of throws at me? When it comes to the 25 times rule for retirement, it's just as it sounds, right? It's 25 times something. What is it 25 times? Normally it's going to be 25 times your retirement salary. And you may say, well, Dre, how do I know what my retirement salary is going to be? Because it does change with a lot of factors. Generally speaking, we tell people if you're around like 75, 80% of your income currently, then you're probably in a good estimate. If you are someone who's like, you know what, Dre, I may live the exact same lifestyle I have now, then we may say, look, let's do 100% of your current income. If you're telling me, Dre, I'm going to be traveling, we're going to be doing all these amazing things, I'm going to go all over the whole world, then I would say, all right, maybe we should do like 150 times your income. It really depends on the type of retirement lifestyle that you're going to have. But a good place to start is about 80% of your current income as your retirement income. Most of us, we've paid off a lot of the debt. The kids are gone. We probably are in a good space as far as what's left on our mortgage. So for most people, when you take how much your expenses will be in retirement, it's normally going to be something a lot smaller than you currently have, which is why we're able to estimate 80% of your income. But it really depends on multiple people. What I will do today is I will take a few numbers. I'll give you $50,000, $100,000, $150,000, and $200,000 a year. And I'm going to show you the 25X rule. I'm going to show you the 5% rule. And I'm going to show you that $1,000 a month rule. And we're going to see what this looks like. What we're really saying is I just need to have an estimate of how well I'm doing as far as the income I want in retirement. You know, my kid, when we do our homework and we're studying and stuff, I often will tell her, I'm like, hey, just look at the number. Let's round them to the nearest tenth, and let's at least have an estimate. How close are we to what the estimate is when it comes to what we actually have as our answer, just as a sanity check? I feel for you in retirement, you just want to have a sanity check. We don't want to get into the nuts and the bolts and all the numbers all the time. We just want to have a small estimate if we're going in the right direction, and I want enough time that I can make the changes. So if you are someone who's saying, look, I want to have $50,000 a year, so 50,000 times 25, that gives you 1.25 million. So if you want to have $50,000 a year, you'll have 1.25 million if you follow the 25X as far as the plan. So 25 times that income gives you 1.25 million. Now you'll say, well, Dre, okay, what would that look like if I was living off of 5% of my 1.25 million? And I'm glad you asked. That would be $62,500 a year. So you'll see that that's about $12,500 higher than the $50,000 that we were shooting for. And if you, and I'll put a link in the video to my $1,000 a month video, but if you do the $1,000 a month, that means that for every $1,000 you want in retirement, you would need $240,000 in your fund to be able to live off of that money. And if we were to look at that, then we would be saying $50,000 a year, you would need $1 million in your investment account. If you have $1 million in your investment account, then you would have, based on the $1,000 per month rule, $50,000 a year coming in. And then if you compare that number to the 5% rule, it is exactly the same thing. So the $1,000 a month strategy and the 5% rule give you the same amount that you want to have set, and then it's slightly higher when you're comparing it to the 25 times rule. Now, if you want to have $100,000 per year in income, if you multiply that by 25, that gives you $2.5 million. Now, if you were to take that number and put it in the $1,000 per month strategy, then you would only need $2 million to be able to have $100,000 a year for retirement. So if I have $100,000 a year, if I go by the 25X rule, I need $2.5 million. If I go by the 5% rule or the $1,000 per month rule, then I would need $2 million. So as an estimate, just as a sanity check, if your plan is to have $100,000 a month in retirement, you would need somewhere between $2 million and $2.5 million based on these three quick and dirty strategies. Now, of course, we can get into the nuts and bolts and go full blown on a retirement plan, but again, it's just nice to have that estimate to see how we're doing. Now, if you're someone that's saying, you know what, Dre, I want to be doing a lot of traveling. I may even move to a place that has a higher cost of living than where I'm currently at. So I need more money than I currently make to be able to afford that lifestyle. If that is the case, now we have the $150,000 a year. If you're looking to have $150,000 a year, if you multiply that by 25, you get $3.75 million. If you were to take the $1,000 a month strategy or the 5% rule, for you to get $150,000 a year, then you would only need $3 million. Now, of course, when it talks about the 5% rule, so the idea is I have returns of 5% and I live off of 5%. So that way I'm never dipping into the principal for my retirement. And then I would need, that amount. So for example, if your portfolio was generating a 4% return, well, then you would need more money. If your portfolio was generating a 10% return, then you would need less money to be able to live that same lifestyle. We chose 5% because for a lot of people, 5% is definitely doable, where you have a relatively conservative portfolio, but you're able to maintain that 5%. So normally that works for people. Now, obviously, the market, it ebbs and it flows. You have some up years, some down years. And I have another video, and I'll put a link to it as far as the best withdrawal strategy. And then I'll talk about several different withdrawal strategies that you can use in a variety of economic conditions and markets. The last one that we'll talk about today is if you wanted $200,000 a year in retirement. If you were someone who wanted $200,000 a year in retirement, if you follow the 25 times rule, that would be $5 million. So you need $5 million if you're following the 25 times rule. That's what you would need to be able to live off of $200,000 a year. If you were going to follow the $1,000 per month rule, then you would only need $4 million. If you followed the 5% rule, that always matches the $1,000 a month rule. So again, you'll only need $4 million. So for you to have $200,000 per year in retirement, the estimate will put you somewhere between $4 to $5 million. Now, you may be saying to me, well, Dre, that's a pretty big difference, right? Like, I need to be a little more specific than that. If you're someone that needs to be more specific, then naturally you'll want to sit down and have a complete retirement plan created for you, where we can give you some exact numbers as far as based on the projections of how the market is doing, how much money you have, how much you're going to be investing. And then the advantage of having a retirement plan is it gives you the ability to make the adjustments periodically. It's not as much that you're going to make it or miss it. It's that we're slightly off of where we need it to be, so let's make some adjustments, whether that is working a little bit longer or whether it is investing a little bit more, where we're able to make some changes so that you still hit the goal. Right? And I would describe it almost like if someone was flying in an airplane. It's not that at any moment in time that it's exactly where it should be, but the pilot and the autopilot, they're able to make course corrections where it puts you right back where you need to be. And that's pretty much how retirement planning is. I find that as long as you take a look at your plan every year, make sure everything's looking good, that you're going in the right direction, update the numbers in your projections, see where you're at, and then from there you're going to be able to get to the goal. For most people, it's when you only look at it once every 5 years, once every 10 years, where it doesn't give you a lot of time to course correct. Maybe the funds you're invested in, the fund managers changed the strategy and it wasn't working for you. I mean, there's so much that goes on. And so you do want to take some time to just look at your investments periodically. If you found value in this video, I simply ask that you like and subscribe so you can continue receiving valuable information on how to unlock generational wealth through strategic retirement planning.